Topic 2, vendors and bringing cards to tournaments.
Yeah, there's social obligation to bring. I'm trying to think of the card even.
Okay.
Basking root wall is
It's perfect. No, actually, make it worse. Make it the red one, blazing root wall, even harder.
Yeah. Why don't you bring 5,000 blazing root walls with you?
I don't understand. So this is very back in our day style of conversation where it's like back in our day when you went to a pro tour and you showed up Thursday and you got to the site and the vendors were there and you were just like, how much is this card? And whatever number they said, you didn't even argue. You could be mad that that's the number, but PT Hawaii, first PT Hawaii, Magnivore PT, sleight of hand, $15.
Yavamai Barbarian was $15 at one of the U.S. Nationals.
Yeah.
Do you know that one?
Yeah, I mean Red Green 2/2 Pro Blue.
Yeah, there was just like Fires was still a popular deck.
Yeah.
There was some mono blue deck that was doing well. And like all the Fires decks had like minimum 3 or 4 Barbarians in their sideboard. Many of them had a few copies in the main deck to metagame or whatever.
Yep.
$15.
Sure.
And that was 23 years ago. So inflation adjusted $30.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to win the tournament or not?
Right.
I'm not saying it's fair. All I'm saying is it's basic supply and demand.
Yeah, and also the vendors, like, I don't think people view this stuff through the lens of risk. Like, everything that they bring, they're shipping it to and from in some capacity.
Yep.
There's the opportunity cost of anything that you bring comes at the exclusion of other things that you could bring.
Yep.
So, and also every card that you're bringing, there's labor associated with advertising it, selling it, tracking it, et cetera.
All of it.
So people look at vendors selling an uncommon that's 50 cents on TCG Player for $3 or $4 or $5 in an event, and they're like, what a racket. And it's like, but you don't see all the stuff they don't sell.
Absolutely not.
And all the inventory they have to carry to be able to have the occasional, I get $5 for this card this weekend.
Yeah.
Normally I would get 50 cents.
Yep.
No one, I mean, also like you just know these people from events and, you know, you and I know each other, a lot of them personally. It's like, they're not getting rich off of this gig.
No.
Some do a good job and some do
not so good.
And the people who do a good job, like maybe it can be a career or not, but it's not like no one here is in a mansion.
It's like the vendors?
Yeah.
Yeah. No. They go to every event.
Right.
Like Caffrey crushes it.
Yeah.
They crush it. Right. And you've spoken of him very highly because I know you've had a lot of interactions with him. I've had less, but like every interaction I've had with Michael's been fantastic. Him and his team do a fantastic job. And it's really hard.
Yeah.
What they do is like, I'll give 2 anecdotes. One, when I lived in Roanoke for the year that I did, I was working in the office. I got to see like Stephen Green and Suarez and all those guys like get ready for a show and then like putting everything in boxes and wrapping it all up and everything. And it's just like, yeah, that's just a ton of work. It's just like 6 people loading the truck.
Yeah. And
that doesn't even account for like the SCG tour stuff. I'm just talking about the stuff they're going to have in the booth to buy and sell. And the SCG booth was the biggest one because they brought the most stuff because it's their tournament. So of course they would, right? But you know, that's all like, I'm not even in the weeds of, okay, so who's in charge of saying how much they're going to bring of each thing? And then there's the show kit versus we still got like, as an example, the sleight of hand. Are you going to bring them all? Or are you going to leave some back for people who are going to order online? Right? Because you have 2 different inventories. And normally it's just one inventory. Now you have to split it into 2 inventories. That's super fun and not easy. Okay, well, how should we bring 70% of it? Should we bring 80% of it? Should we bring no percent of it? I don't know. Because like you still want people to be able to buy them online over the course of the weekend.
Right. And that's the value of, or that's like a quote unquote advantage that something like Star City Games gets over time is just the infrastructure gets built up. They know the processes. They can identify the mistakes before they happen because they've made them before.
Yep.
And if you're just relatively new to this or don't have a huge infrastructure like Star City Games, you're going to make mistakes that are going to cost you a lot of money over and over again until you can get the machine humming the way it's supposed to.
Assuming you can. Right. Assuming you're given the time to do that, right? And I'm saying that that's my viewer experience of not being in the weeds of it, and that was back in 2016. Now, this is before 8,000 different copies of every card.
Right.
And all of these releases that happen now, because I think 2016, they were probably releasing like, what do you want to say, like maybe 5 sets a year? Maybe something like that?
I can't even remember, but I do remember it. I have a vague recollection of it being a lot more compartmentalized.
Okay.
Like there was the core center releases, and then there was a handful of, maybe it was from the vaults, maybe it was Commander stuff, but you could one segment or the other you could largely ignore depending on where you were as a player.
Yeah.
And there was a lot less of it too.
Yeah. So if you take into account that there were less releases then, back in 2016 when I'm watching this happen, also Commander wasn't as big then.
Right.
Because, I know the DreamHack tournament is more focused on like tournament grinders. I mean, you should probably bring some Commander stuff.
Of course.
Or just like some odds and ends that people might go like, ooh, that's interesting. Or it's just stuff that maybe someone who's not playing in the Magic aspect of the tournament, who's there for the RC, but is maybe walking around DreamHack, is like, oh, I play Magic. What? Oh, that's really cool, right? So you have to consider all of that stuff. And then none of this takes into account the thing that the second anecdote I'm going to bring up, which is, so the stuff I do for Coalesce. The first show that I did was an NRG in Milwaukee. And I was like, I don't really know how much stuff to bring. Like I used, cause like we didn't have that much product then. And I was like, yeah, I'll bring like 3 of each size of each shirt. And I remember like packing up in the warehouse and being like, I gotta ship like 6 boxes in Milwaukee. That's not like very cheap. And then like, what if I don't have like enough size? Like, what if I sell all my extra larges like this one shirt and someone's like, I want extra large. And I'm like, well, I sold them all. You don't want to do that, right? So then what I eventually ended up doing was, okay, I'm just going to bring the smallest size of every shirt that I have, just one of each copy, lay them out on the table, and then if someone wants to buy one, they obviously can't take it with them. So what I'll do is I'll ship it to them for free, because the free shipping is, the cost I incur on that is less than trying to ship all the sizes of all the shit I have, right? So I have one suitcase that I bring to every show that has like my tablecloths, my stickers, one of every small shirt and hoodie that we have, some play mats, some hats, whatever, and it's all in one suitcase that's less than 50 pounds. And then I generally fly Delta at all the shows because my bags are free to check because of my status. And then I go, right? And I've got I got my giant bag for my show, and then I've got my other suitcase for like my shit. Both my bags are free because I'm Platinum on Delta, go do the show, blah, 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 right? That's just my experience of doing like my little small business. Cards weigh more than shirts. And you have to bring more of them, and you can't bring one Urza's Tower and be like, mail you after the show.
And also the cards, unlike t-shirts, have wildly different prices.
Also true.
So how are you maximizing your ROI of, we're going to sell a lot of copies of card X, but for $2 and the margins are pretty thin. How many of those do you bring versus things that sell for $25, but you might not sell a single copy at most? Yeah. It's like hard.
So you play that entire guessing game, like with my business or with being a vendor of just selling cards at an event. And then you try to figure out what the costs are. And I'm going to say this as politely as I can. People have no idea how difficult this is because the vendors are mostly guessing. And some people are like, well, you could like get into threads online and see like what the most popular decks are. Okay, so let's say I'm hypothetically Michael Caffrey. Am I supposed to go in there and do that? Or do I assign someone to do that? Is that someone else's job in the company? Am I just paying you to go into threads to see like what Pioneer cards we should bring?
And is that more valuable than just tracking volume via, TCG player or closed auctions on eBay or whatever? Yeah.
Right. Like what if I'm just like, hey, person that works for me, I want you to get as many threads as possible to figure out what Pioneer cards we should bring to RC Atlanta. And it's like, that's not your normal job. It's like, okay, so like you paying extra to do that? Or is like, this just my new assigned job, whatever. It's like, okay, that's like that's just a different conversation entirely, which, one can have. Okay, sure. You're assigning someone to do a thing. Okay, that's fine. It's like, okay, how do I do it? Like what's the process that we're going to go through? And then it's like, did I do it well? Did I not do it well? Because, if the person gets something wrong, it's like, why didn't you see this card that we needed to bring? Obviously, it's like, well, first time we've done this.
Yeah.
There's just so many moving parts to try to get this right. And some people chimed in and were just like, well, it's really difficult when they unban Smuggler's Copter and ban a bunch of cards before the tournament. It's like, it makes it hard for everybody.
Well, so I think that Wizards screwed up with the timing of the announcement. Or I won't necessarily say screw up, because if you're confident you're going to do the bannings and unbannings, having a tournament where afterwards you're like, okay, this didn't really count. None of these deck lists matter. It's just a new format.
Yeah, sure.
I understand. It's not there's arguments on both sides for either waiting until after Atlanta or doing it before.
Yep.
But the ban announcement came so close to Atlanta that even if you wanted to, let's say, okay, I know within 4 hours what deck I'm going to play, which is not likely, but even if we say that, people might not have had enough time to even order cards and have them arrive in time.
Yeah.
So I do believe that this was a singularly bad event.
I agree.
For these sort of considerations. With that said, I've never gone to a large tournament and not seen a sizable minority of the room scrambling for shit they definitely could have gotten before they got there.
I agree with that
if they
as well.
were better prepared.
I as someone who has not owned a collection since they were 17, that is essentially me at every event in some form or fashion of just like going to a tournament and being like, I don't have any cards. So, ideally I contact someone before the event that I know, and it's just like, hey, do you have these cards, or know someone who has these cards, whatever. But, I haven't gone to a tournament in like 15 years with a deck because I don't own cards and I haven't. So the scramble can be real.
Yeah. So, yeah, I guess my position is at some abstract level, I am sympathetic to the idea that it would be nice if the vendors, all other things being equal, were oriented around the tournament in question such that someone who is playing the tournament is very likely to find the cards that they need that they are missing for their deck. That would be a nice thing to have. But what absolutely crushes that hypothetical for me, what obliterates it, makes it not even a consideration, is I've been around you people for 25 years. You've never been prepared once. And this is something where it's like you had to go to a tournament and qualify. Most of you have to get a flight in a hotel room. Like this is a big undertaking. Like most people don't do stuff like this. Like spend their time and energy and money finding a local event, winning, like practicing enough to be able to win an RCQ, and then going to the RC. And yeah, I guess maybe it's not fair, but I know y'all. And none of you have ever been ready for an event.
Okay, here's what I'll say right now for everyone who's listening to this. Do you have any plans on playing a tournament in the near future? Okay, maybe. Right. Are you registered for it yet?
Yeah.
Probably not.
Oh, it's sold out. I can't believe they would cap the entry.
Yeah, I don't want to hear it. I just don't want to hear all
that, right?
Yeah. Like I know like plenty of like RCQs in Denver and stuff, and it's like, yeah, I think I'm gonna go. There's like an RCQ like 2 weeks from now. Like, you signed up yet? Well, no. I'll sign up like the day before.
Yeah, I'll go. What time does the tournament start? 11. All right, I'll be there at 10:55.
Yeah. This would be ridiculous if they can't have
exactly right.
So I don't. Let's not act like, oh, we're the most prepared people in the world. This is ridiculous that this happened. No, you're not.